I told my sister I wouldn't raise her baby if something happened to her, she said I was proving I never loved her kid. I thought she was being manipulative until the real father showed up at her door, and I finally understood the terror behind her words. So here's the situation. I'm 32F, child-free by choice. My sister Vanessa is 35F, single, and about 8 months ago she had a baby, Lily, now 4Mo, using a sperm donor. We've always respected each other's choices. I threw her a baby shower, I helped set up the nursery, and I visit regularly. I love my niece, and I enjoy being an aunt, but I've never wanted to be a parent myself, and I have no intention of changing that. We grew up in a close family, and Vanessa was always the nurturing one while I focused on my career and travel. When we were kids, she'd pretend I was babysitting her dolls and tell everyone I'd be the best aunt. I never took it beyond that. I still enjoy playing with Lily, and I'm proud to be her aunt, but I never imagined actually parenting a child. Last week, Vanessa called me out of the blue one evening when I was getting ready for bed. She sounded serious and upset, saying we needed to have a serious talk. I had a sinking feeling in my stomach, but agreed to come over the next day after work. That evening, I showed up at Vanessa's apartment. She greeted me at the door looking anxious, with Lily asleep in her arms. We sat down at her kitchen table. Vanessa took a deep breath and then said something I'll never forget. She had already named me as Lily's guardian in her will and had put me down as Lily's emergency contact at daycare and the doctor's office. She said she just assumed I would say yes, since I have no kids of my own and I clearly love Lily. She thought I was the obvious choice to take care of her if anything happened to her. I was completely caught off guard. My mind was racing. Finally, I managed to ask quietly how she thought I would feel about that. My heart was pounding. Vanessa's face crumpled and she burst into tears. She said she thought it was obvious I'd want that responsibility. She reminded me that I love Lily and that she had no one else to rely on. Our parents are getting old and I'm her only sibling, so she assumed I would want to raise Lily if something happened to her. Her voice cracked. I felt awful hearing how scared she was. A part of me was angry and hurt too. It felt like she had made a decision for me without even asking. I took a deep breath and tried to explain myself. I told her I do love Lily more than anything, but that I have never wanted to raise a child. Being an aunt is wonderful to me, but being a parent is a completely different lifestyle that I opted out of. I reminded her that she never even asked how I felt. Vanessa sobbed and said I was rejecting her daughter and that I should be doing this out of love. She kept saying family is supposed to help out and get all choked up. I didn't know what to say. My partner Maya, who had come by to help with Lily, walked in and immediately saw the tension. After Vanessa burst into tears, Maya came up and wrapped her arms around me. She quietly reminded me that I can say no. I had never signed up for this. I clung to Maya's hand, feeling grateful she was there to support me. My parents have also gotten involved. Mom called me later, practically begging me to say yes. She was crying, saying Vanessa was terror-stricken, calling friends and interviewing people to take Lily, and she was begging me to agree. Dad was more blunt. He said nothing had actually happened. It's just paperwork, and I was making things complicated for no reason. They just couldn't see why this was a problem. To them, it was a legal formality. Mom was heartbroken, and Dad was confused. They didn't understand why I was digging in my heels over a what if. I was a wreck that night. I lay in bed unable to sleep, thinking about everything Vanessa had said and what it meant. I stared at old photos on my phone of me and Lily laughing together. I love Lily. I really do. But agreeing to be her guardian would mean a life I never planned or wanted. By morning, I texted Vanessa, I'm really sorry you're scared. I need time to think about this. I can't just say yes right now. She didn't reply. I realized this was going to be much harder than I thought. Update 1, 3 weeks later. My sister is interviewing guardians at my parents' house and it's breaking my heart. Thank you all for the responses on my last post. Things got more intense. A few days ago, my mom called me in tears. She said Vanessa had invited 3 women over to our parents' house for dinner to meet Lily and discuss expectations. Mom said Vanessa had lined up Shauna, her college roommate who lives 8 states away with her husband and 3 young kids, another single mom Vanessa met through a donor support group, a friend of hers for about a year, and Sarah, 47F, Vanessa's co-worker who doesn't have kids but reluctantly agreed to consider it. Mom was practically begging me to just say yes, saying, please, just don't leave your sister without help. That night after work, I was still reeling. I decided to drive to my parents' place without warning Vanessa. When I walked in, I saw Vanessa sitting at the table with Shauna. Baby Lily was in her high chair, happily clapping as Vanessa showed her some pictures. Vanessa looked up at me with wide eyes. She was clearly nervous. Shauna gave me a sympathetic smile and waved Lily's toys in front of her to get her attention. Vanessa quietly explained they were just talking things over and letting Lily hang out with Shauna and her kids. Shauna's little boys were there too, talking to Lily excitedly about how one day they would play together. But then Vanessa started talking about transition plans, like introducing Lily to Shauna's kids and talking about Lily spending weekends with them if something happened. I felt sick. They were speaking casually about Lily living with other people, as if she already belonged somewhere else. I suddenly felt dizzy and hot. I excused myself and ran to the bathroom. My hands were shaking as I splashed water on my face. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might skip a beat. I leaned against the sink, closing my eyes. When I opened them, I saw Maya's worried face in the mirror. She had followed me, clearly concerned. Maya wrapped her arms around me. Outside, Lily's coos and Vanessa's voice felt distant. Maya squeezed my hand and reminded me I didn't sign up for this. I took a ragged breath. I love Lily, I whispered to Maya, but I still don't want to be a mom. Maya nodded and held me tightly for a moment longer. The next morning, I knew Vanessa and I needed to talk again. I texted her, can we talk today? You, me, and Lily. She answered yes, and we met in our parents' garden that afternoon, with Lily in her stroller. Vanessa was already there, sitting on a bench with tired eyes. I started by telling Vanessa how the night before had made me feel. I described seeing her discuss Lily's future with other people, and how terrified and hurt it made me feel. Vanessa sat quietly, shoulders shaking, but listening. After I finished, Vanessa took a deep breath. She cried and finally admitted she'd been absolutely terrified. She said that since Lily was born, she struggled with panic and nightmares. I kept imagining something happening to me, she whispered, and Lily having no one. I was so scared. Hearing that crushed me. I reached out and took her hand. I told Vanessa again that I do love Lily. I really do. But then I had to be honest with her. I explained that I never asked to raise a child, and that becoming her guardian was something I was not prepared for. Vanessa started to cry harder, but she nodded through her tears. She apologized for panicking and forcing this on me. She whispered, I just needed someone to promise me Lily would be okay. That broke my heart. I told her I understood how afraid she was, and I said, I don't want to abandon Lily. We'll figure out a plan. Maybe we can find someone you trust to help raise her, someone who truly wants that responsibility. I will be here to support that person as much as I can. Vanessa wiped her eyes and said it helped to hear that. It wasn't a solution, but at least we were both heard. We sat quietly for a while, watching Lily yawn in her stroller. Finally, Vanessa thanked me for coming and listening. It wasn't a resolution, but I think we both felt a little better understanding each other. I left that day exhausted, but relieved that Vanessa and I could talk without yelling. At least now we know we're in this together. Later that week, Vanessa announced she was going to officially update her will and paperwork, not just on Facebook. She called an attorney friend who helped add a few backup names for Lily's guardian just in case. It was a small step towards something concrete. By the end of the month, Vanessa seemed calmer. We even went for lunch together with Lily. We sat in a pizza place and watched her splash water with her hands in the high chair, smiling a bit. Vanessa squeezed my hand and said, I really don't know what I'd do without you. Those moments reminded me I'm still her sister, not just a fallback plan. I told her we'd keep working on this, but I was relieved to see her less frantic. In between all this, I did some research. I looked up guardianship laws in our state. I read that if I agreed to be guardian, I'd have all the responsibilities of a parent. That scared me, but at least I knew the facts. I also texted friends to vent. They were shocked and supportive, telling me I was not insane to set this boundary. Hearing that made me feel a bit steadier. I also made little gestures to help. I kept texting Vanessa to see if she needed anything. Groceries, errands, extra help. I even dropped by unexpectedly once with a grocery haul so she could rest. I wanted to show I wasn't ignoring her, just trying to do this thoughtfully. So for now, I'm holding my ground but also supporting Vanessa however I can. We still have no final answer, but at least Vanessa knows I'm not going anywhere. I just need us to find a solution together. Update 2, 7 weeks later. I discovered why my sister really chose single motherhood. Since my last update, things really turned into a whirlwind. Last week when I went grocery shopping with Vanessa and Lily, Vanessa's phone kept buzzing and every time she jumped at it, she looked really on edge. We were in the cereal aisle when she finally sighed, apologized, and said she'd call me later. My dad then called me sounding truly worried, saying that a man had shown up at Vanessa's apartment asking about Lily. He said Vanessa was scared and wouldn't tell us who it was. My stomach dropped. I realized this must be about Lily's father somehow, and I knew I had to find out. That night I drove to Vanessa's apartment. It was dark and quiet. I knocked. Vanessa looked like she hadn't slept in days. Lily was in her walker, grabbing pieces of toast off the table. Vanessa had poured herself some coffee but barely touched it. She looked at me and motioned me in without a word. In the living room, Vanessa sat Lily down and led me into the kitchen. Finally, Vanessa broke down and told me the truth. Lily's father is not an anonymous donor. It's Marcus, an ex-boyfriend from a few years ago. She explained that after Vanessa had gotten pregnant, she didn't feel ready to tell Marcus, knowing his history. She told me Marcus had been in and out of rehab and had substance problems. After finding out about Lily via a Facebook post, Marcus suddenly started texting her, saying he was 14 months sober and in therapy, and asking to meet his daughter. Vanessa was terrified. As she spoke, I remembered Marcus. He was a charming guy in our college days, but a loose cannon. He had disappeared after getting into trouble. Hearing all of this, my mind was reeling. Vanessa showed me the messages from Marcus, one where he said he was finally clean and wanted a chance with Lily, and another where he apologized to Vanessa. She told me he hadn't officially demanded custody yet, but he clearly wanted to be involved. I suddenly understood why Vanessa panicked so much. She was afraid of what would happen if Marcus really showed up in Lily's life formally. What if he insists on custody? Vanessa asked, her voice shaking. What if he relapses around her? What if he just takes her away? My chest tightened. This wasn't some hypothetical anymore. This was why she'd been so desperate to find a guardian for Lily. Vanessa sobbed that she just needed someone, anyone, to promise her that Lily would be okay if Vanessa couldn't protect her from Marcus. I felt horrible that Vanessa had gone through this alone. I reminded her again that I love Lily and that I cared about her safety. Vanessa apologized, saying she was so sorry to put me in this position. I told her that I didn't think she was selfish or anything. She was just terrified. But I also said I needed honesty and a plan. We agreed that Marcus would have supervised visitation, given his effort to stay clean, but that we would also make sure Lily has stability with people who love her no matter what. After hours of talking, we even laughed through tears when Lily pulled faces at us. We felt a bit more hopeful. Vanessa said she finally understood why I hesitated. She admitted she had panicked in paperwork without telling anyone. I was proud that she trusted me enough to tell the truth now. We spent the night making notes, phone numbers, lawyer info, and even a mock schedule of how Marcus's visits might work. Maya came over and brought us coffee. She listened quietly to Vanessa's explanation. When Vanessa left the room briefly, Maya quietly told me she understood why Vanessa panicked, but that I hadn't done anything wrong by setting my boundary. We realized we were all on the same page now, knowing exactly what the real threat was. It wasn't death, it was custody. We haven't resolved everything yet, but now at least we know what we're up against. Vanessa isn't just planning for an accident. She's facing the very real possibility that she'll have to fight for Lily's future. Marcus has been humanized. He genuinely seems to be trying to turn his life around for Lily's sake, and Vanessa isn't alone anymore. Not with me, Maya, and our parents backing her up. I drove home that night feeling exhausted, but oddly calm. After 6 months of uncertainty, I finally saw what Vanessa saw. Lily needed a team of people who truly loved her. I'm still child-free and never wanted this, but I realized that protecting Lily might mean stepping into this role after all. So next steps, lawyer calls, already done, family meetings, and making sure no matter what Lily has a loving home. It's overwhelming, but at least now I know what needs to happen. Update 3, 12 weeks later, Marcus met Lily and now I understand what my sister has been carrying alone. Things are getting more real than ever now. Not long after I posted last time, Marcus's lawyer sent a formal letter requesting a paternity test and visitation rights. Vanessa, Maya, and I met with a family lawyer to understand what this meant. The lawyer was blunt. Since Marcus is Lily's biological father, he has rights. She explained that Marcus's sobriety actually helps his case. A judge is likely to allow supervised visitation, and possibly more down the line. She also warned us that if something happened to Vanessa, Marcus would have a strong claim to full custody of Lily unless we could prove he was unfit. In other words, even if I'm named in the will, Marcus would still be the legal father with ultimate say. That realization realization hit me hard. Vanessa was right. Lily's future really was at stake. The lawyer gave us some hope too. She helped us write up a plan. If Marcus stays sober, he'd get regular supervised visits and maybe weekend visits after a while. We added clauses that if anything happened to Vanessa, Marcus would have visitation rights, but I would be the primary caregiver unless he was proven unfit. Marcus actually signed a statement agreeing to this plan. We even listed Kelly, Marcus's sister, a longtime sober sponsor, as an emergency contact. It felt like progress to have all this on paper, but also daunting. Meanwhile, Vanessa and I agreed to face Marcus together. We set up a meeting at a family counseling center. The court recommended supervised visit. Vanessa asked me to come along for moral support. The counselor and a mediator were there too. When Marcus walked in holding a big handmade blanket he'd knitted during rehab, Lily immediately reached for him. He was nervous, but gentle. He apologized to Vanessa tearfully, saying he knew he had no right to ask for forgiveness. He just wanted to be part of Lily's life. Watching him hold Lily, who was gripping his finger and smiling at his face, I suddenly felt a wave of empathy. Marcus looked terrified and sincere, not a villain. The counselor asked Marcus about his life and support system. He talked about his AA sponsor, and then mentioned his sister Kelly, who said hello from the waiting room. He even said Kelly is 6 years sober and that she came by to meet Lily afterward. We all saw he was serious this time. At one point, he gently tried to make Lily laugh by pretending her little hand was a puppy, and Lily actually giggled. I caught Vanessa's eye, and we both managed a small smile. It felt like a breakthrough. After the visit, in the car on the way home, I realized something important. The real danger to Lily wasn't Marcus anymore. It was the system that might split her away from everyone she knows. If Vanessa weren't here, a judge might put Lily in foster care until all this was sorted. I turned to Maya and said quietly, I think Lily's real safety comes from keeping her with people who already love her, like us, not strangers. Maya nodded. That night, Maya and I had one of the hardest conversations of our relationship. We sat on the couch together and faced this head on. I told her that I'm ready to do this. I will officially become Lily's guardian if needed. Maya took a deep breath. After a long pause, she said softly, I think you should do it, but I also need to figure out how I fit into this. You know, I never wanted kids, and being a dad figure scares me. My heart sank a bit. I told her I would never ask her to become Lily's mom or co-parent. I said I knew this was hard for her. Maya took my hand and said she loved me, and that she was really proud of me. She admitted she was scared, but she said she wouldn't leave me over this. We hugged and cried. We don't have all the answers yet, but we reaffirmed that we're in this together, and we'll figure out what Maya's role will be, whatever that looks like. A week later, Vanessa called me at 2 a.m. She was terrified and sobbing. She had a nightmare that she died, and I said no, and Lily ended up in foster care alone. I rushed over and found Vanessa cradling Lily, panic-stricken. I took Lily and held her while Vanessa sobbed beside us. I promised Vanessa over and over that nothing like that will happen, that Lily will be safe. Vanessa asked through tears, how can I ever be sure? I squeezed her hand and said, because I won't let anything happen to her. In that moment, I truly meant it. The next morning, I told Vanessa, I've made my decision. I will be Lily's guardian if you can't be there, but we're doing this together, with Marcus involved as long as he stays sober. We all have to work as a team. Vanessa burst into tears of relief. She hugged me and thanked me, her voice shaking. I could feel how much that meant to her. I then told Maya. She was quiet for a moment, then said again that she needed some time to think, not about leaving me, but about what this meant for her personally. I understood. We hugged and I said I'd give her all the time she needed. She looked at Lily too and said softly, you really love her, don't you? I laughed and said I do, in a way I never expected to love any child. That night, Maya held me as I cried quietly. We both knew our relationship might be tested by this, but we promised to be honest with each other no matter what, so that's where we are. I agreed to step up as Lily's guardian. Vanessa and Marcus worked with lawyers to lay out visitation and custody arrangements. Marcus has been having his supervised visits faithfully. He comes every 2 weeks and has always been sober, exactly on time. He follows all the guidelines. Vanessa is still in therapy for her anxiety, slowly learning she can share Lily's care. My parents finally apologized for not understanding sooner. Lily, of course, has no clue any of this was happening. She's 10 months old now, crawling, babbling, and completely adorable. To her, the world is full of loving adults. Every time she smiles and lights up around me, I feel a mix of pride and protectiveness. I would do anything to keep that smile on her face.